Stay on.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of The Cut. I am your host, Christian Williams, and I am here, as always, with Randy Hall. Randy, how are you, man?
Doing good. Just getting into the swing of things here at work. Bunch of after-work meetings all week. Last week, all week this week. So, trying to really stay to that 40 hours as best as possible.
Yeah, that's always a struggle. Good weekend of football, so including college football. I did want to mention the Texas-Alabama game before we get started on the NFL stuff, because Texas should have won the game and would have if Quinn Ewers didn't get hurt, which is just an interesting development for college football. Any college football notes before we hit the incredible amount of NFL games that we need to talk about?
Besides that game, I think Will Levis looked really good in that game. I mean, Georgia is still dominant, the best team in college football, which I tweeted out this weekend. And Ohio State's offense looked a bit more on beat, even without, their top weapon. So,
yeah, but if
they're getting there.
If you ask some people, their defense is a travesty, and they should not be on the field ever. Okay. That's enough college football. We need to get into week 1 of the NFL, but specifically week 2. We're going to structure this show a little bit differently this year, as we're just going to do a week 2 preview, talk about all the games, talk about what happened in week 1. And we were also still going to bring you guys waiver picks. Now, obviously, we know that the Monday Night Football game is still going on. It's the second half as we are live and recording this. But we kind of, I think, know what's going on, and there's really no waiver news unless there's a big injury, which we will have breaking as we record. So, let's start with the waiver wire. We had the unfortunate news that Elijah Mitchell will miss at least around 8 weeks, is what we're saying, and potentially more is what I saw today. He has a meniscus or MCL sprain again, I believe. I think he had an MCL injury last year as well. Super unfortunate, kind of a freak play. He was being used as the workhorse, though. And so people are obviously going to wonder, what do we do with the 49ers backfield? Jeff Wilson has been named the starter, with others kind of competing for the number two role in Ty Davis-Price and Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason was active in week 1 over Ty Davis-Price. Randy, what are you doing with that backfield? Who are you targeting?
I mean, I think you target Jeff Wilson and then have Ty Davis-Price as kind of like the second priority of that backfield. He was, held out for Mason to play special teams. I don't think they have Ty Davis-Price doing that. And when you have 3 backs already on the, starting roster for the day, and you have Kittle out with an injury, and you have injuries elsewhere, it just makes more sense to have the 4th running back as inactive on the week. So I would take that with a grain of salt with them being fully healthy in the backfield in theory. But I think Jeff Wilson still gets the first takes here.
Yeah, it's Wilson. Wilson is the guy I'd target. And if I miss, I personally would go Mason, actually, because I think we saw that last year, where that's what we thought with Trey Sermon too. And if you look at the usage in the preseason, Mason actually was a little more efficient. And it seems like some of the beats coming out of San Francisco indicate that they like him more, which doesn't surprise me, because I don't think Ty Davis-Price, he obviously shouldn't have been a day 2 pick. We know that. But I don't think he really had a great camp either. So I'm intrigued by it. I would just take a shot on Mason because he's cheaper. I think it comes down to that too. You might have to spend a higher priority waiver on TDP, or if it's Fab, you might have to spend a little more to get him. So.
Yeah, if Wilson's not available in your league, which I mean he's available in 20, he's only taken in 20% of leagues right now for redraft. So if he is available, I think you're just kind of sending your majority of fab there. If him and Ty Davis Price are available, I think Mason's available pretty much everywhere. He's only 4% owned. So if you're fighting between the two, I think you take Wilson. If Wilson's gone, I think you're right, and you let everyone else kind of spend money on Davis Price, and you kind of just punt the position a little bit and take Mason and hope he works out, because then you won't have to spend as much there, and you'll know, like, you might be tempted to play Davis Price, but you won't play Mason this week or the next if he's not getting reps, and you'll just cut him for cheap anyways if he isn't getting reps. But at least you're not wasting a lot of your budget for a guy that might not be starting in Davis Price.
Yeah, for sure. It's worth noting too, Wilson was the third down pass catching back, even with Mitchell healthy out there. So yeah. I think he's going to get a pretty healthy workload here. All right, next one, Keenan Allen went down with a hamstring injury. Super unfortunate too, because he was kind of balling when it happened. And then when he went down, I think we just talked about how Justin Herbert, he wasn't really dominant in the way, I mean, he made some incredible throws and very memorable throws, but he wasn't really dominating in the way that this passing offense should. Josh Palmer was not really a beneficiary of a whole lot. I saw one catch personally. I don't know what he ended up with, and I don't have his stats pulled up. But Gerald Everett was kind of the beneficiary. Josh Palmer rostered in 30% of leagues. Keenan Allen is going to be out this Thursday. So is he a high priority for you, or are you kind of still weary because Mike Williams is still there?
I would say he's my highest priority receiver on this whole list, just because there's a factor of whole season, usage. I mean, this is the guy that we both discussed drafting very late in the draft anyways. So you wouldn't have to have this worry. Not that we predicted any injuries or anything, but he was going to get mixed in regardless. It was just a bit of unlucky. Like I said, I don't think Herbert played all that well. I don't know if it was just the pass rush of the Raiders affecting him too much or what else, but he couldn't get the ball to Mike Williams. A little bit of Nate Hobbs there as well, stopping that. But Palmer didn't get involved either off of that. I mean, he really was just like, okay, well, the third receiver's open. All right, Everett's open to the end zone. Like, there wasn't really dealing. It was more just like taking what was given to him kind of thing. And I think with a short week of preparation, Palmer and Williams would most likely be the focal point, especially because the Chiefs secondary, while there is somewhat of a big name there, Justin Reed, and there's rookies there, there's not really a top-end secondary, as opposed to it's tougher to run against them than throw against them.
Yeah, for what it's worth, the Chargers did complete passes to 9 different receivers. DeAndre Carter actually outperformed everyone. Josh Palmer had 3 catches for 5 yards, 3 catches for 5 yards. DeAndre Carter had 3 catches for 64 yards and a touchdown. I'm intrigued to see if that's the usage this week. And then if it extends into week 3 with the Keenan Allen injury, then I might be a little interested in a 1-week rental on DeAndre Carter. With Palmer, though, you guys know where I stand on that. I think he should be rostered because I do think this passing offense gets better. Okay, next, Curtis Samuel had a pretty big day, but the Commanders' offense had a pretty big day as well. Jahan Dotson was a 2-touchdown scorer, and Terry McLaurin was there as well. Curtis Samuel only rostered in 13% of leagues. You said that Palmer was probably your highest priority. Why do you hate Curtis Samuel?
Because Palmer is the wide receiver 3 of a good offense, whereas we saw an offensive explosion of sorts from the Commanders this week. It was facing the Jaguars. I don't expect that every week. And Samuel is the third option here. Dotson with 2 touchdowns, Terry McLaurin with 2 touchdowns, Samuel with 1 touchdown. Antonio Gibson had 8 targets through the air as well. So just because there's too many mouths to feed and it's not a top-end offense, I would rather take the guy on top-end offense. And the other thing was Curtis Samuel, he got the touchdown early, but there wasn't like an extended full game workload. It started to incorporate more of the running backs and the top 2 receivers after that drive.
Yeah. Curtis Samuel, 8 receptions, 55 yards, and a touchdown. Much of that coming very, very early. He went off, I think he had 4 receptions on the first 2 drives. So most of it came very, very early in this game. And they were trying to get Antonio Gibson the ball. Antonio Gibson had 7 receptions in this game. He had 21 opportunities. Antonio Gibson, pretty good. We'll talk about him later, I'm sure. Robbie Anderson, 17% rostered, had a broken play touchdown. Probably nothing because you're not going to get broken coverage all the time. But do you have interest in him as a waiver wire pickup this week?
I have some interest. So he was the guy that I was debating on taking very late in drafts as well because he has the big play upside. He always has that. He is the option 2 of this team, but he also did get, the most workload as well in this offense, at least the most statistical workload. And there's a big play touchdown there, but that's what Robbie Anderson does. I think this team is going to be down a lot. I think this is a type of play that they're going to be looking for every week. So the first half did not work for this offense with the dink and dunk and safe play calling. Once they opened it up, they actually could move the ball a bit and had some running lanes for CMC. So I think that's what they're going to try and stick to from the future.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not super interested in Robbie. I do get it, though, because, 5 receptions is pretty good. Weird game for Baker Mayfield. We'll talk about that later as well. Next one, Devin Duvernay, 21% rostered, had 2 touchdown catches, looked really good, 4 receptions, 54 yards. James Prochet wasn't a factor in this game. He was coming back from a soft tissue injury in the preseason, and I don't even know if he was active.
I don't think he was.
So I think that might matter if he is active. Maybe Duvernay's workload comes down. They did like what Prochet was doing before, but Duvernay shot this week, you think?
So I believe he had 4 targets, 4 catches, 2 touchdowns. So it's not a high workload. Lamar, I believe, only had 30 attempts for 200 plus yards. While it looked good, it just wasn't. I don't think it's a sustainable weekly thing. I love Devin Duvernay, and I think he's going to probably produce a touchdown a lot of weeks. But I just don't think it's a sustainable enough thing that you can be like, okay, well, 2 catches and a touchdown for 12 yards. Yay. So that's for that reason, I think I was just sitting waiting at least another week. Because if it's a repeat performance and he does become the receiver 2 here and clearly a top target, that's a different story. But this is more of a sit and wait, I think, on him.
Yeah, for sure. Next one, Dontrell Hilliard, 13% rostered. I had kind of been telling people that this was the case. Dontrell Hilliard is the passing down back for the Titans, and the Titans will probably be in a lot of passing game scripts. He had a very weird game, though, 3 receptions, 61 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The 2 touchdowns obviously boost his value and where he finished here in week 1, but the usage is good. He's running a lot of routes when he's out there. Now the whole Titans passing offense wasn't. He was tied for the second leading receiver with 3 receptions. Kyle Phillips, we'll talk about him. We can just kind of couple him in. 6 receptions, 66 yards. I believe he had 9 targets in this game.
Yep.
Was the clear wide receiver 1 in Tannehill's eyes in this game because he was open a lot, which we've been kind of talking about this. He had a 29% target share in this game, which is just incredible. So out of those 2, obviously different positions, are you more interested in Hilliard or are you following the volume with Kyle Phillips?
I would be more interested in Phillips, mainly because Hilliard had about 70 yards on 5 touches with 2 touchdowns. It's just not – I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think this is an offense that throws the running back a lot. This is an offense that – let's not make any mistake. Derrick Henry had 21 carries. He just didn't really have a good game. That is not going to be every week. And if he has just a slightly better game, they're probably continuing the better game script, and Hilliard isn't getting passing touchdowns. The first one, it's like a first drive, made sense. The second touchdown was a big play. So there's a little bit of a difference there. And I just don't think it's sustainable, but I get why he's one of the better. Would you rather have Hilliard or Jamal Williams? That's kind of like where, or Rex Burkhead. Like that's kind of where I would have them.
Yeah, I'm thinking I would rather Burkhead just based on the weird lack of Damian Pierce in a game that they should have been running the football. They really Burkhead seemed to be the 1A pretty clearly the 1A in that game as well.
About 3 days after they named Pierce the starter.
Very strange things happening in Houston. But I think I'd rather Burkhead. Who was the other one? Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams' week was very touchdown dependent, and Swift was really good. He was more efficient running the ball. So I think his usage will come down. It is still a two-back system. I mean, Williams is probably still like a flex consideration.
Yeah, and Williams, he's getting goal line touches where Swift isn't. So if they can get down there, which, I mean, they put up 35 points, I think there's a good option there to have a high touchdown, upside, just not a huge workload. Because, again, Swift looked ridiculous. It's just he couldn't get in the end zone basically as consistently as Williams. So
Yeah, for sure. I get that, though. Another running back, and the last one we're going to talk about here, Jalen Warren. Najee Harris could play this week. He also may not. He was in a walking boot after the game, but he posted a 10-carry, 23-yard performance, only 2 receptions. He did find the end zone, kind of saving his week and making him not kill your week. Jalen Warren, 7% rostered, will be the starter if Najee's unable to go. I have no interest in the running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers if it's not Najee, and I really don't have much interest in Najee with him injured and moving. Like if I have Najee in redraft, I'm trying to trade him right now. Even though his value is a little low, like I'm kind of out.
I think we'll get into that a little bit more here in a couple game speaks here. But yeah, I think he's just worthy. Like he is the handcuff here. There's no one else. But he played every snap once Najee was out. So if we're getting word that Najee isn't going to play, which when we're also getting word of, the Mac Jones injury, back spasms, where he might not play, that could factor into that decision as well. When they know they're facing a backup, give Najee the rest. So we'll see on that. But I think he's playable if Najee isn't playing, but he's a pure handcuff. It's just he's so low owned, and if you had Elijah Mitchell go down and you don't, I think this is like a second or third priority you put on your waiver. You bid very little, like $5 or something, and if you get him and he's playable this week in your flex, that's a good thing. But
yeah, for sure. All right, last two wide receivers. Sterling Shepard, 5% rostered, had a pretty nice another blown coverage touchdown. Blown coverage touchdowns kind of can be fluky, but 4 targets in this game, just 2 receptions, 71 yards and a touchdown, but looks to be the number 1 wide receiver still. Because
sad.
So Kenny Golladay, 2 targets. Richie James led the team led the wide receiver room in targets with 6. I believe Kadarius Toney played 7 snaps. Wan'Dale Robinson left the game with an injury. So I think that's why we saw Richie James's work.
Yeah, there was a concern that Wan'Dale wouldn't even play. So, it wasn't shocking to have him go down. I think, he was named starting. He's a starting slot receiver for a reason. So I think he has value, especially when they're going to be in worse game scripts than they were this week, and they weren't in a super positive game script. So it's just one of those things where he's a high value garbage time player for you to play in your flex.
Yeah. And the Giants get the Panthers this week, and a player who just had some pretty decent success against the Panthers, Donovan Peoples-Jones, is the last guy that we should mention here. Donovan Peoples-Jones had 11 targets, 6 receptions, 60 yards. Kind of pretty clearly the number 1 receiver in the Browns offense, which was strange. I would argue maybe not the number 1 receiver, but maybe Jacoby Brissett sucks. And then he was only finding Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah, it was very frustrating to watch. Cooper was perennially open.
Yeah,
like almost
all
every
over the place.
snap. Even snaps where he got held, he was open. And honestly, Njoku was open for the most part a lot of the time as well, and it just seemed like Brissett was just so happy to just throw DPJ only. It was very strange. And Schwartz, literally your two worst options. So it was very weird. I think there'll be a little bit of correction there if I'm the coaching staff. Going through film this week saying, okay, look, Amari's fucking open, throwing the ball,
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, the Jets defense, it got cooked a little bit, but Sauce Gardner was really good in coverage, and so I assume Cooper will draw that matchup for the most part.
Well,
But Sauce,
yeah.
I think, sticks to his side. So if they move people around, there's a chance that Donovan Peoples-Jones gets Sauce, and he will get absolutely clamped. I would not pick up Donovan Peoples-Jones personally, but a name that is probably going to be popular. All right,
It's if he's another wait and see, but
for
he's a
sure,
name to monitor
for sure.
because there's a good chance, like you said, he gets taken, picked up this week. He plays Sauce, gets one catch, people just drop him.
Yeah.
So it's a wait and see for him. But if that role does continue when he's not facing, more of a top end athletic target corner, I think he can really be a decent flex option for you this year if that actually is sustainable. I just don't know if it is.
All right. Anyone else on the waivers?
Who?
Who is your number one priority overall? Is it Jeff Wilson?
Yeah, Jeff Wilson, not even a question.
Yeah.
Elijah Mitchell out 8 to 10 weeks. There's a chance he comes back sooner, but with how much running backs they have, I just don't see that as a likelihood. And there is a chance that they end up trading Jimmy G here to Dallas or another team, whatever happens. And that opens up another rusher spot, which they would almost assuredly sign a running back to just to help out this room. So we'll see how it goes.
For sure. All right. And I agree there. So week 2 preview. Let's get into it. I know week 1 is still happening, but that's okay. We're just going to roll right into week 2. So Thursday night football game this week is a fantastic one. Chargers versus Chiefs. Yeah. Chiefs are 3-point favorites at home. Over under in this game is 52.5. I will go out on a limb and say bet the over. Bet the over feels like a pretty good bet here.
I believe combined these two offenses scored over 70 points, I think, or 68 points, something like that. So, this is going to be a good game. I expect to we already talked about this a little bit. Mike Williams not used last week, really. I expect a better game from him this week and almost a game plan for him.
Yeah. So let's talk about the matchup. So Mike Williams, he's going to draw probably mostly either Fenton or McDuffie. He's going to be on the outside. They're not going to slide him into the Keenan Allen role, but they are going to construct a game plan. You're right. People are going to be wanting to sit Mike Williams this week because of his no-show in week 1. Don't do it. Play him. He's probably going to get at least wide receiver 1 volume this week, which will be really good. League average Patrick Mahomes on the other side, according to PFF league average, he went off last week or this week. 5 touchdown passes. 1 was underhand. I think PFF knocked him for that. But the Kansas City offense is humming already. It looks like it did back when Mahomes threw 50 touchdowns in the season. So this is going to be a dynamic game. Is there anyone you're hesitant on? I know Gerald Everett got a really nice touchdown catch. He was a product of volume as well. Are you maybe picking Everett up with waivers and playing him in this game?
No, not necessarily, because I will say like Ertz and McBride kind of struggled to really do anything on Sunday. So I think there's a little bit to say there as well. So I'm just not fully interested. I think I want to see it again and see if it was just a product of the one play, or because really before the touchdown, it really didn't matter. So, even with volume. So we'll see on that. I mean, CH had an incredible game, but he only played like 39% of snaps. He played pretty much all of it in the first quarter. Like he dominated snaps at the beginning of the game. He had 2 touchdowns at the beginning of the game. But once they had like a comfortable lead, they kind of took off the throttle. He was basically not used at all. He wasn't used in the second half, really. And he was barely used in the second quarter. So I do want to – I'm definitely playing him, especially in this high upside total game. But I am waiting to see if I'm fully back in on CEH as like a very easily startable top-end RB2 for you every week, which is what he was, hyped up to be, really. I mean, some people hyped him to be RB1, but that's a bit ridiculous in a passing offense. So we'll see how it goes. But they did use 3 running backs.
Yeah, for sure. McKinnon was the passing down back outside of CEH. So
after the first like 3 or 4 drives.
Right, for sure. Clyde had 3 targets. McKinnon had 4. And Pacheco had 0. So I think when push comes to shove, I think McKinnon's going to get on the field before Pacheco, even though they did like what Pacheco put out there, I would assume, because he looked pretty good outside of the fumble. Really quickly, last thing I kind of want to mention on this game, we got clarity on the receiver room a little bit. Juju Smith-Schuster, 8 targets. He is the wide receiver 1. Randy kind of pointed that out heading into week 1. Good call, Randy. McCole Hardman had 6 targets. I think a report came out from Dan Graziano that the Chiefs really want him to be a big focal point of this offense, and they kind of forced his hand there. He only caught half of his targets, though. 3 receptions, 16 yards, and a touchdown. Wasn't a very good showing. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 4 targets, 4 receptions, 44 yards. And then Sky Moore had one target. It was a 30-yard, very nice play from him and Mahomes. So I think that's the order of the receivers. Justin Watson didn't get on the field.
It's kind of, I mean, there's a little bit more McCole Hardman than we kind of expected, but he is this, returning guy here. But the rest of it is exactly what we expected, where Valdez-Scantling is a top option along with Juju, and then Sky Moore will slowly carve out his role. But, I mean, we knew, unless you're living under a rock, the best tight end in football was going to be the focal point of one of the best offenses in football. And I think we're going to get a weekly performance like this from Kelsey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Without a doubt. Anything else on this game, Randy?
Can't wait to watch it. I hope my training ends pretty early-ish, and I can get home for this game, because Jesus.
There you go. Okay, main slate, 1 o'clock slate, or noon slate for good old Randy over there. The first game we're going to talk about is Jets versus Browns. I don't want to talk about this game really much other than to say the Jets are not going to throw the ball 59 times in this game. I can tell you that. I know that for a fact. So it's really, really hard to take away a lot from what the Jets did in week 1. So here, I'm just going to go through some stats really quick. Michael Carter, 9 targets, 7 receptions. Breece Hall, 10 targets, 6 receptions. Corey Davis, 9 targets, 6 receptions. Elijah Moore, 7 targets, 5 receptions. Garrett Wilson, 8 targets, 4 receptions. Braxton Berrios, 6 targets. Tyler Conklin, 7 targets. So I don't know how those are going to shake out. I think the passing game usage for Breece Hall is encouraging. I think there's potential that you could start both running backs, because I do think that Joe Flacco is going to check down. Michael Carter was good. Breece Hall was also good. Michael Carter got, I think, 1 more opportunity in this game. So I don't really know. It's kind of like a wait and see on all of them.
I'm nervous because if we're looking at how this last game went for the Browns defense and their talent, they focused on CMC in the passing game. They didn't let him break free with a lot of JOK. And if I'm the Browns, I think Newsom and Ward can just pretty much blanket Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson. Definitely Corey Davis. So I'm not really worried of the Jets' passing attack. I think if I'm the Browns, whose run defense looked so much improved on Sunday, I'm very nervous for the Jets running backs. I think they're going to have to get this level of passing work to be really flex options for you this week. It could have been a fluke, but I think I trust the Panthers' offensive line more than the Jets, which is kind of saying something. But injuries to the Jets, so.
True. I don't see. Here's my thing, though. I think a lot of the Panthers' issue was schematic things. I don't think that they had a good game plan. McCaffrey got like 4 touches in the first like quarter and a half. It made no sense. It was a really, really
For
bad.
about negative 10 yards because JOK was flying at him. That's
Yeah,
kind of my point.
that's true, but also I think because of the way the Panthers were using CMC, that was the case. I think Breece Hall has a chance to have a good game here because I do think the Browns' run defense was better. I also watched the gash plays happen. Like it was off a weird fumble and then picked the ball up, but then it broke down towards the end of the game too. So I'm intrigued.
It's also true, but we'll see. But it's not like I didn't see a lot of real encouraging signs from the Jets, especially in the passing game on defense. It was, I mean, Sauce played all right, but like, I mean, you got carved up by Lamar. If we're being real here, the Ravens couldn't get the ball running. They really couldn't get it going. They did a decent job containing Lamar running as well, but I don't think that's more of a strength of the run defense of the Jets, just an ineptitude of Mike Davis and Kenny Drake. So I think the tandem of the Browns can really just dominate again this week.
Yeah. Are you starting Amari Cooper in this matchup?
I mean, we kind of went over that. I think I can play him in the flex, but depends on the options. I want to see him actually get fucking targeted, rightfully so, too.
Yeah, I do too. I don't have much interest in Amari Cooper. I tweeted out a while ago, I have Gabriel Davis ranked ahead of Amari Cooper for as long as Jacoby Brissett is the starter, and I feel pretty good about that call right now.
It's fair.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on this game?
Just for what it's worth, I thought the offense for the Browns, while it looked rough, they scored 26 points, which is something that didn't happen a lot last year. Also, the play calling was still as weird as it was last year. It seemed like a lot of the passing attack plays are just what the playbook is for Watson, and they're not adjusting it because it's almost like they were trying to dial up deep shots for Brissett, where that's not what he does. So
I'm not sure what he does, and he also faked
wins
that spike.
games, Christian.
He faked that spike. We'll have that conversation at off air.
We're just gonna ignore that. just move on.
And he flopped pretty hard on that Brian Burns hit, I think, because I don't think he even got hit. But anyway, over under in this game 42.5. I would probably pick the under. Under this game. All right, next one, Patriots Steelers. Another one I really just don't care to talk about. Patriots are 1-point favorites on the road. I think that number will come up with any Najee Harris news. I have Najee Harris as my need more info player of the week. He may play. I would probably play him if he's a go. I would definitely temper my expectations. Patriots run defense is traditionally pretty good, and it was pretty good against the Dolphins, but the passing attack was much better on the Dolphins side of the ball. Over under in this game 43, higher than Jets Browns, which is hilarious to me. Mac Jones, I don't know if he left the game at the end or if they didn't have the ball anymore, and he just went to get x-rays, but he's just having back spasms. It doesn't look like anything serious. There's a good chance that he plays in this game. TJ Watt, torn pec, but maybe only partially torn.
Yeah. Recent news is it might just be partially torn. So for what it's worth, a torn pec is like 4 to 5 months, roughly. Could be more depending on severity. Also, for what it's worth, his brother JJ came back after 10 weeks with a completely torn pec. So this family, as we know, is freaks. If it is completely torn, it still might be like that. But the reports are right now he's getting a second and third opinion, which I'm not quite sure if he's double checking that it's actually just the 6, or he was told it's 4 or 5 months. And he's like, bullshit. So I think we need to figure that out this week. But if it is 6 weeks, that's definitely not a full tear, no surgery needed, nothing like that. Which is an incredible thing for the Steelers, because it's clearly the only way they're winning games is this defense. This offense looked horrendous. The receivers looked good. Deontay I had one of the best catches I've ever seen. It's just it doesn't move the ball. The Bengals had the ball about 100 times with a chance to win and tie it to end the game. They it just kept giving them the ball.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. And for what it's worth, I wouldn't blame Mitch Trubisky for the offensive line of the Steelers. We've talked about this. They are bad, like really, really bad, and almost detrimentally bad. Deontay Johnson's catch along the sideline was probably his best catch of his career. Just an absurd catch. Start him in this game. Any interest in Claypool in this game?
He did look like he was scheme touches, but no, not like particularly. I'm just not. I think I'm just basically at the point where I'm playing Deontay. I think I might play Freiermuth depending on the matchup. I'm not fully sure on this one.
It's a weird.
It's hard to tell with the Dolphins tight ends. I don't think we could fully deliberate, but Duggar was playing out of his mind for the Patriots. So if that was because of him, I think Freiermuth could have a tough day.
Yeah, that could be the case for sure. Freiermuth, 10 targets, 5 receptions, 75 yards in week 1. So I think we could be talking about him as like a weekly start, but we'd need to see it first.
Yeah.
On the Patriots side of the ball, I don't have interest in starting anyone outside of the 2 running backs, but even in this matchup, I don't know that I have interest in starting Damian Harris or Ramondre Stevenson. Worth noting quickly, Damian Harris did have a 10% target share, which was tied for his highest of his career. So it seems like it's just straight up 1A, 1B, and they're splitting all the work.
I think the only one I'd be interested in this week is Damian Harris. And it decreases if Mac Jones isn't playing, because then it's just, full send. This defense is trying to stop the run, not worried about the pass. And at that point, they're not going to be able to run. It's just.
Yeah, Mac Jones, if he plays also, is going to throw 7 interceptions, because if the Steelers defense can confuse Burrow that badly.
With what, though?
True. Which impacted it for sure.
100%.
Yeah. Anything else on this game? I'm pretty out. Bet the under. Next game, actually a pretty good one. Buccaneers 3-point road favorites against the Saints. Over under 47 points. A lot of injuries. Chris Godwin went out. Looks like he'll be out a short amount of time. 1 to 2 week thing. It's just a hamstring. It's very similar to Keenan Allen, it seems. And his knee is fine, which is good news. Left tackle Donovan Smith is out, and it seems like it's an extended period of time, though I did not see how long yet. I don't think they know yet.
No, and they've had 2 injuries at center as well. They replaced both guards. So obviously they still have the guys that they replaced them with, but they replaced both guards. Wirfs is always kind of banged up every week. Basically, this offensive line is banged up, and they let in a ton of pressure from Micah Parsons and company. I don't expect that to be as much of an issue against the Saints defensive front, who has some names, but just isn't that caliber or that electric of speed pass rushers.
That's a good way to put it.
It's a defensive front for the Saints that Brady can just maneuver around, is more because they're more of a power than speed rushers. So they'll be fine-ish depending on health. But I mean, we'll see here. But the other side, I mean, because of the pressure, the Bucs didn't score a ton of points. They definitely struggled to capitalize on drives, really. They got into field goal range a lot. 4 field goals in the first half says all it really needs to. And most of those drives were ended by a sack, or constant pressure leading to an incomplete pass. On the other side, the Saints offense was pretty inept for 3 quarters, besides 2 Taysom Hill rushes. And then it came alive in the fourth when they were down. Jarvis had a big game. Michael Thomas, 2 touchdowns. Olave, clutch catches. Kamara, mixed usage, not used heavy in the passing game, which is it's strange just because of how they used him in the preseason. I don't know what that was necessarily, but we'll see how it goes. I don't think they're really going to be able to run this week a ton, so the usage to get Kamara involved is going to have to come through the air more than through the ground.
Yeah, and the Bucs defense was flying around on those situations as well. Pollard and Zeke they've had fine-ish days, but they weren't doing well in the passing game last night. So
I will say Zeke was getting 5.5 a carry, so there is something to be said on that. I know they are, replacing Ndamukong Suh, a D tackle too. There's not as strong there, so there might be some lanes, mixed up there, but we'll see. Yeah. He also only got 10 carries, which makes no sense. But
very strange. Quick note: Jarvis Landry, his average depth of target bumped up about 6 whole yards from his usage with the Browns. I think Jarvis Landry could be a play in this game because I think Michael Thomas, his day was definitely on the back of 2 touchdowns, but did see 8 targets. Jarvis Landry, leading target getter though with 9. I think you can play Jarvis in this matchup. The other side of the ball, I did want to mention, I start Julio Jones. Mike Evans is going to draw Lattimore, and Julio Jones looked fantastic. The TB12 program is doing him very well. So
he's back to his normal speed, which is what is all he really needs as long as he can stay healthy. So yeah, he looked good. I mean, honestly, Godwin looked pretty good too, and Evans as well. Obviously, it took some late involvement for him to really get involved, but yeah, we'll see. Fournette looked all right. Nothing ridiculous, nothing bad. One killer block.
Yeah, that's apparently everyone in the NFL is going to fight over it too, because Michael Parsons did not take kindly to it, and then Von Miller
didn't take kindly getting just destroyed. Because
it was a blindside. Yeah, I know. But Von Miller said
he's from the backfield. How is that blindside?
Well, because he was looking the other way, I guess. I don't freaking know. But
that's useful.
Michael Parsons' whole position is about hitting the quarterback when he's not looking. So I don't want to hear it.
What?
I don't want to hear it. But Von Miller said, we need to get these hits out of the game. Whatever, Von. Just go get your 2 sacks.
You ran around an entire offensive line. They fucking have to do that to you, buddy. You're too good.
Exactly. It's crazy. I don't
If they don't, you sack them every play.
Exactly. It's crazy. It was a good chip block. Rashad White looked pretty decent in the passing game, but just not enough work. And also, I think Rashad White will get more work. I think we saw signs of that. The Bucs didn't really have a ton of definite passing downs, and Fournette was out there for some of them as well. But I'm intrigued to see how they incorporate him. I wouldn't start him or anything. That'd be crazy. I had to start him in 3 leagues this week, though, for what it's worth. So that sucked. Okay. Anything else? 47. That's a pretty good line. I think I'd probably bet the over. It's tight.
I would. Both these offenses struggled, but the Saints gave up 26 points to the Falcons.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty encouraging for a Bucs offense that needs to just finish some drives, really.
All right, next game, Colts 4.5-point favorites against the Jaguars. Over under in this game is 45.5. No injuries of note. The main thing on the Colts side, my lock this week is Michael Pittman. I'm starting. Obviously, he was drafted as a wide receiver 1-ish, wide receiver 2 fringe. You start him every week. However, this is the week I'm starting him over virtually everyone. Michael Pittman saw incredible volume in week 1, and the wide receiver 2 position for the Colts is not yet decided. Alec Pierce had a really bad drop. Ashton Doolin, I believe, had a bad drop as well, or a punch out or something like that. Paris Campbell was fine, had a big catch in the overtime period before the Colts tied. So my lock, start Michael Pittman without any concern whatsoever. And Jonathan Taylor, obviously. Matt Ryan, I have actual interest in this week as a streaming
Yeah,
quarterback.
like one of our redraft leagues. I drafted Dak very late. Obviously, he's going to my IR now. Matt Ryan is a free agent. I'm probably picking him up.
Yeah.
Just because they had a very up and down week as an offense. Definitely kind of turned it on down the stretch, just kind of like the Saints as well. But Pittman looked good. I just think there was almost an abundance of trying to get involved the wide receiver too and find it out, and it wasn't working out. And then when they first, all right, we're giving it to it's just Jonathan Taylor, Hines, and Pittman. The offense was humming, and I think that's what they're going to be coming into this week doing.
Yes, I would start Nyheim Hines this week in my flex as well.
He's their wide receiver too right now.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Other side of the ball, Christian Kirk went berserk. He is the leading target getter every single week. He is the wide receiver one for the Jaguars. They paid him in that way. We've had conversations about this. You can start him every single week. I don't know that there's even a matchup that would scare me, especially not this Colts matchup. Outside of that, Zay Jones had a pretty decent day. I think he had 3 receptions off the top of my head. What I want to talk about, though, is the James Robinson versus ETN usage. So ETN got more snaps. He got more of the third down work, but James Robinson got, I believe, 72% of the rushing share. James Robinson looked really good coming off his Achilles injury. James Robinson is a more talented runner in between the tackles. James Robinson is the starting running back for this team, and Etienne is kind of in, I wouldn't call him in the Nyheim Hines mold, but I wouldn't call this, I made a joke earlier last week that it's going to be Kamara and Mark Ingram from a couple years ago.
Yeah.
It might be more like Kamara and Mark Ingram now on the Saints, where Kamara is actually James Robinson, potentially, even though they don't. Yeah.
And see, that's the thing. Like, Robinson vastly outtouched him running the ball, but Etienne vastly outsnapped him and vastly outtouched him in the receiving game. So I think they're both startable. I would almost say flex options, with Etienne more of a lean as an RB2 because of PPR, and he is an explosive receiver as well. And Robinson is going to be a flex because if he's getting 15 touches a game on the ground, as well as maybe 1 or 2 through the air, and he's a goal line back, that is a usable weapon every single week, even on a bad offense, which he has been his entire career, with more touches. But but he was an RB2 to RB1 then. So we're going to taper it down to a flex. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at the usage. When you look at the production, I mean, James Robinson averaged 6 yards a carry and scored 2 touchdowns in this game. He was the goal line back, and that actually turned into a touchdown because for whatever reason, Trevor Lawrence can throw him an accurate ball. He cannot throw Travis Etienne an accurate ball.
The one time he did, Etienne got murdered.
This is true. Yeah, and he fumbled at it. Well, I don't know if they called that complete or not.
They called it a fumble. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
People lost like over half a point on that play, because of that.
I think his receiving yards prop was 24. He was at 20 before that play and ended up down at 14. And then he ended up not without that fumble, he would have hit his receiving yards prop. So that sucks for those bettors. Okay. Outside of that, I'm not really interested in any other Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, don't start him. I don't. In one quarterback league, Superflex leagues.
Yeah, sure. Superflex is different, especially with the Dak injury. Like it's another. Both these quarterbacks are streamable options, in my opinion. I would just rather Matt Ryan for touchdown upside. It's just this is a week I wouldn't be scared to play Lawrence. I guess is kind of like I don't see studs on the Colts secondary that I'm just terrified of. So,
yeah, I think that's fair. All right. Anything else on this game?
Nope.
All right. Next one, Commanders, 1-point favorites going to Detroit to face off against the Lions. Another 45.5 over under. no injuries of note. You have a lock to talk about.
Yeah, Antonio Gibson. We were definitely waiting and seeing on if he would be used as the top guy that he kind of is, especially with Brian Robinson out. And he was just used in abundance and all over the field. Had a lot of good gash plays running and had some elite gash plays through the air. 7 of 8. I believe it was 8 targets, 7 catches, a ton of yards. He was really a focal point of the offense and more of like the chain mover of this team, and which turned into big plays, which is kind of essential, especially with Robinson out. I don't think there's really basically there's no mix of competition from McKissick of note. There is 3 receivers being used here, and Logan Thomas is a red zone threat, so there is a bit of a capped upside, and they're not always going to be playing the Jaguars. Even the Lions gave up a lot this last week to the Eagles, which is a better offense. I think there's a good chance to have a good game all around from both sides of the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the running backs for Philadelphia combined. Now, all of them scored a touchdown, so take that for what it's worth. But they combined for 36 points. So,
and that's with Jalen Hurts out rushing them, by the way.
Exactly. So, Gibson, I want to go out on a limb and say I think he's a lock every week until Brian Robinson is back, and then even then, I think Gibson is going to do enough to get that job back. He kind of showed that already.
That's basically what I wanted to kind of point out. I think we're at least going to see a 2-game pace of him just being absolutely dominant, and I think we're going to get more of a 4-game, 5-game, 6-game pace of this, and then Robinson's going to be slowly worked in to having a small role this year, kind of what we thought was going to happen beginning of the year, just on talent level of Robinson as a complete back at least. So we'll see.
Yeah. Regarding Wentz, so very up and down game, 27 of 41, 313 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Problematic. He was late on the one throw, but then comes back, throws an interception. Jaguars go down. I think they scored on that possession. Next drive, he throws a fantastic touchdown to Jahan Dotson. Just a very hot and cold player, but a good fantasy asset. I think in this game too, he's going to be able to move the ball. I think you can play Carson Wentz this week as a high-end QB2 and feel pretty confident in it. And I hate saying that. You know how much I hate Carson Wentz and don't think he's very good.
It's true, but this is also possibly the most weapons he's ever had. So even if he is a bad quarterback, I think we're going to see, especially if there's a lot of negative game scripts, which maybe not this week, but most weeks will be, I think we could see a lot of passing attempts from this team. And as long as Wentz doesn't throw 4 picks a game, he might be a usable asset, at least if you get yards. I mean, I think you're going to get yards from him. I'm just not sure on the touchdowns.
Yeah. Other side of the ball, DeAndre Swift is a lock every week. You never sit him. DJ Chark was usable in last week's game on the back of a touchdown, but he looked pretty good when he had a couple bad. I think he had one bad drop and then another one that was questionable. That's the DJ Chark experience, and I think I would play him in this matchup as a flex.
It's also the DJ Chark experience against Darius Slay. You know what I mean? And it's just one of those like, well, I think there's a little bit of grain of salt there. I don't see any Commanders corners I'm really terrified of. So I think Amon-Ra is going to be dominant. I think Reynolds has some, low-end flex play. I think Chark has some flex play. But Swift is the offense. Hawkinson had some decent plays. Still nothing incredible from him, in my opinion.
I'm not sure he's good. I think you may have said that, and I argued you.
He's talented.
He's talented.
I always fight back on Hawkinson because he is talented, but he's not done anything. He had one good game as a rookie, and we anointed him a top 5 tight end. Is he the caliber of that? I'm definitely not going to argue that, but I also think Noah Fant is, and we haven't seen anything from him really to that extent either. Technically, he's been outplayed by 2 other tight ends tonight. So
Shout
take
out
that
Colby
for what it's worth.
Parkinson, baby.
Yeah. But and also Jamal Williams, we talked about him. He's the red zone back. He gets worked in. If Swift is going to continue to make these big chunk plays, Williams is going to keep being useful because Swift keeps taking him to the dance that he's tolerated up. He is the return of the vulture. And I am in full love of it, especially after my annual watching of the league.
Yeah, fair. Also, I made the joke about Kamara Ingram. This is more like that than
Yes.
and Swift is for sure the Kamara. Swift,
he looked electric.
he looks better than he ever has, including his time at Georgia.
Exactly.
So
I don't know if that's the Deuce Staley effect, if he's really feeling it now, but or if the line's just full go or what. But he's
craziest part is they had an injury on that line and he still looked good. Right? Yeah, I'm excited for this matchup actually, which sounds crazy. I'm a degenerate and I'm excited to watch the Commanders play the Lions. So I would pick the over in this game too, for what it's worth.
I think I would too, and I think I've taken the Lions.
Yeah, me too. Shout out the Lions. They played well. They looked good at first. They did their Lions thing where they look bad for 2 quarters and then they come back in the fourth quarter. Hopefully that doesn't happen in this game. Next one, Dolphins going to Baltimore to face off against the Ravens. Ravens are only 4-point favorites in this game. Over under 45.5. What? 45.5 is the over under for the rest of the games. That's not true, but it feels like it after the last 3. Injuries. The Ravens lost. So Ronnie Stanley didn't play in this game, and then they lost their starting left tackle.
Juwan
something.
Yeah. Feels rude that we don't know that off the top of our heads, but
it's a bummer. It's a bummer.
They lost Juwan. I know that.
Juwan James.
James. I knew it was Jay, but I couldn't figure out. But yeah, they're on their left tackle 3 now. And it showed.
Yeah, not ideal, especially when the Dolphins had a pretty good pass rush against the Patriots in week 1. Not the best pass rush, better coverage. We know what the Dolphins are. Tyreek Hill, 12 targets. Waddle had 5. Waddle had a touchdown. He looked dynamic. But Tyreek Hill definitely dominated the target share in this first game. We've talked about this. I think they're both usable. The Ravens secondary is much, much better than the Patriots secondary outside of I would even argue that Marcus Williams would give Duggar a run for his money. They play different roles, but
safeties that's my only kickback on that. But yeah, I agreed. Waddle, 4 touches from Waddle. He was barely a flex play. The 5th touch was the touchdown, which made him an easy start. So that's my concern. If we're gonna get 12-4, 12-5, 10-5,
which I don't think we will.
And I think we will, man.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
They also didn't throw it an exuberant amount. I also want to point that out. So they might have to in this game, especially if Lamar is kind of cooking it through the air like he kind of was. Again, he only threw like 30 times for 200-something yards. So it wasn't ridiculous, but he played well. Pay that man. But yeah, it's just one of those. If they are throwing more, and what if they do throw a ton and it's 15-6 then? What are we saying then? That's my concern, and that's more of a weight on it because both were easily fantasy relevant this week. So it's just one of those. Hill was paid. He's the top guy. I think that's assuredly so now. I don't think there's really a question, but I'm not sure the discrepancy is this wide. But that's why it's in here because it is a, issue.
It's interesting too. Both of them are gonna finish as probably high-end 2s when all is said and done. They both scored, I think, 17 points in normal PPR leagues. Tua was not. He only threw the ball 33 times, like you said. I think he scored around 13 points, depending on your format. He was just really efficient. He looked good. I'm intrigued when they do throw the ball more, when they score more. Other side of the ball, our joint pausing on the situation is the Ravens backfield. J.K. Dobbins could be back for this game. I think that rushing him back at this point doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think they could win this game without him. I think having him back would bring a lot of clarity to our lives. Kenyon Drake and Mike Davis were the 2 leaders of the pack, and you can't start a Ravens running back if it's not J.K. Dobbins this year, in my opinion. Do you agree with that?
Agreed for now. I want to see Gus Edwards back, but yeah,
That's fair.
Dobbins. I think they're going to make sure Dobbins is 100%. According to him, he's either 100 or he's close. He wanted to play. He fought for this. So I think there's a chance he does play, but we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if they hold him for 2 or 3 weeks out just to make sure he's 100%, especially with Gus Edwards on the IR. And there's no real high value help to him. I think that's why they're holding him out more, because they're like, okay, well, and they also already had a torn ACL this year in their secondary, which is for some reason their thing every year is get a ton of torn ACLs. So I think that might even help that decision. Like, all right, shit, we already had one. You're sitting down, damn it.
Yeah. I'm starting Rashad Bateman in this game, despite the Dolphins' good secondary. I think that volume-wise, I think both of these offenses will hum, despite both of their defenses looking really good in week 1. I just think that it's going to be one of those games where we think it might hit the under, and then they go flying past the line. Lamar's too good. I think the receivers for the Dolphins are too good, and in that case, I'm taking Bateman and tossing him in my flex pretty comfortably.
Yeah, and I would say the Ravens offense struggled a good amount this last week, and they put up at least 24 points. I can't remember the final.
24.
And the Dolphins put up 20 while kind of playing time management the second half, if we're being honest, and more safe. So this definitely could. I think this easily hits the over because both teams are going to have to come out swinging to win this.
Yeah, for sure. Who are you taking in this game?
Ravens. Trust the better coach.
Yeah, Ravens as well.
And the better quarterback.
Yeah, by a lot. Love Tua, but Lamar, pay that man. All right, next game. Probably going to go through this one quickly. Panthers at Giants. Giants are 1-point favorites in this game, over under 42.5. Christian McCaffrey couldn't really get going. I'm a little nervous about Christian McCaffrey in week 2. I'm playing him, but I'm tempering expectations. Yeah. Baker Mayfield struggled, looked like he was a little nervous of Myles Garrett early on, and then it came to fruition when Myles Garrett sacked him. Pretty good too. But he
plays.
Yeah, but he did lead. It should have been a game-winning drive. And he looked good over the final 3 quarters of this game. I think I saw a stat. He was 9 of 12 over the final 3 quarters for over 200 yards. Just obviously we talked about the broken play with Robbie Anderson, but I think Baker looked fairly good. The interception overthrow, you're going to have that with Baker. We know that. We know that by now. I'm interested in starting Baker in this game as a high QB2.
There's a chance.
We talked about Kadarius Toney's lack of usage. I don't really have interest in any Giants player except for Saquon Barkley, who is back. He is so back. He looks better than he has since college, and he looks to be one of the best running backs in the NFL once again, which is very exciting for fantasy football and just for NFL fans.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's definitely the biggest thing with CMC is it didn't look good running the ball last week. Not him, just the offense. And like we said, Derrick Henry had 21 carries against this Giants defense and didn't really produce. And I think Derrick Henry, I think I trust him running the ball between tackles more than I do McCaffrey. So there is some concern there. And a lot of the passing plays keyed up to McCaffrey in week 1 didn't really work. So we'll see if it works this week, basically, is by we'll kind of see how it goes.
Probably will. There's no Owusu-Koramoah out there this week. For the
Giants. There's really no Giants linebacker I'm scared
afraid of.
So
yeah, for sure. DJ Moore stardom too. I mean,
there's not really
expectations. Wide receiver 2. I don't think he has wide receiver 1 overall upside, but you're still comfortable playing him, I think, in this game.
Yeah.
Cool. That's it for that game. Cardinals versus Raiders in the afternoon slate. Raiders are 2.5-point favorites. I feel like while the Raiders didn't look great at times, I feel like that's disrespectful. The Cardinals aren't very good. Over under in this game, 51. Damon Arnett. is out for a couple games. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I missed that one, so that sucks. Talk about the Raiders. Go ahead, because I'm gonna trash the Cardinals really quick when you're done.
Yeah, so we're just gonna trash these two teams. The Raiders actually looked pretty good. Their defense played really well. They contained seemingly uncontainable offense, especially after the Allen injury. Though I will say Allen was kind of carving them up. They kind of held in check Eckler as well. Shut down Mike Williams. So there's some good things to say for the Raiders. Nate Hobbs was elite. There's some concern for me with Hollywood Brown because of that. But the Raiders line was atrocious. Some shout out to Colton Miller, who didn't play bad. The Chargers have two of the best edge rushers. It showed. Derek Carr was getting killed all day. I believe it's 7 sacks, 3 picks, and at least I will credit at least 1.5 to 2 of them to the offensive line, if not all 3. It was just not good. Plain and simple, I think it kind of cost them in the long run. And again, they did not play well because of that, and they couldn't really run the ball because of that, and they still could have won that game. So I think shout out to the Raiders somewhat there. Devonte Adams, just same guy, moved offenses. Holy fuck. He was the target hog and was killing it. I think there was a little bit of a focus to take away Waller and Renfro to some extent because they didn't really have an outside corner to cover Adams, so they knew they were going to get torched. So they tried to stop everything else a bit, I think. At least that's what it kind of gathered from me watching. Anytime they tried to put a slot corner, which is all they have past J.C. Jackson, really, on Adams, they were getting cooked. So they're like, okay, well, you get your, 17 targets, 10 catches, and 150 yards and a score. We'll just stop everyone else, hopefully. And they kind of did.
Yeah. Yeah, on the other side of the ball, the Arizona Cardinals looked pretty terrible. Got blown out pretty handily by the Chiefs. Kyler Murray was 22 of 34, 193 yards and 2 touchdowns, 4 carries for 8 yards, and he fumbled the ball. Uncharacteristic, also funny, I saw a TikTok highlighting how he missed. He should have kept his receiver in to block. He missed the hot route. He didn't even check to the hot.
That was by the coach from last GMTU, by the way. That was him breaking it down.
Yeah, and he was saying, okay, we get why he had a study thing because it was a very obvious. It was obvious. I mean, it was very obvious. Yeah, it was obvious that pressure was coming in. And Kyler Murray, he concerns me a little bit. In this game, though, James Conner couldn't get going, did get a touchdown and targeted a lot. I think you play James Conner. Benjamin is the running back 2 in this offense. He got a lot of the passing down work as well. Marquise Hollywood Brown had a good day, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 43 yards, and a touchdown. You play him, but I think you do temper expectations with Hobbs across. Where I wanted to go with this, though, Greg Dortch saw 9 targets for 63 yards, 7 receptions. That's going to be Rondale Moore this week if he's healthy. Rondale Moore is a good play in this game. I would play Rondale Moore as a flex, especially in DFS. He's going to be really cheap as well.
I also think Ertz is a decent play with Everett having a heavy target share and a touchdown. That's what Ertz can do at this point in his career. So
yeah, for sure.
We'll see.
For sure.
It should be. Right. This should be a better game from both offenses as a total, especially with the Raiders' offensive line because the Cardinals' pass rush is.
It was non-existent. Yeah.
I was trying to find a nice way to say it, but let's be real, non-existent.
Cliff Kingsbury sucks. I've been saying that for years, and
it just got extended though.
I know. It made no sense. All right, next game: Falcons versus Rams. Rams are 13-point favorites in this game. Over under 48. Cam Akers discussion. We haven't gotten to this, obviously, because that was the Thursday night game. This is our first show since then. Cam Akers was terrible. He was terrible in the game. He wasn't given very good opportunities. There was a report from Adam Schefter, though, that had Kyren Williams not sprained his ankle and been out for now 6 weeks, Kyron Williams was going to be the RB2 and getting the passing down work. So it's kind of concerning. I think Darrell Henderson is probably a good play in this game against the Falcons. And I think you start him up as an RB2 each week with tempered expectations. Outside of that, I think Allen Robinson is going to have a better week against the Falcons. AJ Terrell was kind of being taken all over in coverage. He's more comfortable staying on his one side. That would be the Allen Robinson matchup, but they did move Allen Robinson all over the formation as well, almost primarily on the left side. He was getting open. I don't know what to do with the Rams. I'm concerned about Matthew Stafford, man. I really am.
Well, yeah, I think the big thing is there was a lot of pressure on Stafford. He has the elbow thing. They couldn't really run the ball. They took the top. They weren't allowed to take the top off the defense. The Bills restricted it entirely. They played an entire shell defense, made them throw 5 yards. Stafford basically refused to throw to Robinson for some reason. I think there was a bit too much of trips White. Not right, White. And he just kept dinking and dunking to Cooper Kupp for barely even chunk plays. It looked inept on offense. There's a lot to be said by just a tremendous game for the Bills defense, though. Although the Falcons defense looked decent against the Saints. So we'll see here. The Falcons did the Falcons. They gave away that game. I don't think they'll be in the game past the first quarter for this one, so they won't have to give it away. It might be 28-3 at the first quarter, so they can just get it out of the way.
I'll push back on that, though. Their offense looked really good against the Saints in that first half.
Their offense is safe.
Cordell
Patterson had a good game, and that's what helped them. That's about it.
Drake London had a good game as well. He wasn't getting the chunk plays
5
either.
Catches.
Yeah. I mean, but it's encouraging that him and Pitts had almost identical route participation, target share. Everything was very much so the same between those two. They're very much so the AJ Brown, Corey Davis of this offense, because remember Arthur Smith ran that offense. That's going to be the usage. That's good news. That was a good tandem over in Tennessee.
And Cordell Patterson was the Derrick Henry.
He's going to be.
For what it's worth, Damian Williams was used as the running back, as the actual pounded out running back, the Mike Davis role from last year. And when he got hurt, and it does look like a decently significant injury, Patterson took over and he played really well. I think this does give way to some reps for Tyler Algier, which is a good thing for this team in general for the future. So I don't expect 25 rushes, I believe, from Patterson this week, but his usage was that of the start of last year again. So he's very easily startable flex every single week.
Yes, for sure. Rams in this game. I don't know if I might take the Falcons to cover for what it's worth. Rams win outright, though.
I think it'll be close for the cover, yeah. But this might be the game where Akers has 100 yards because they're up and they're running the ball, So we might have questions semi-answered. I don't think Henderson outplayed him necessarily.
They both sucked.
That's the thing. They both sucked, and Henderson had more opportunity to suck. So that's kind of the pain here. And they did the game wasn't out of hand, but they were losing basically the whole time and knew they were going to have to throw to move the chains. So we'll see how it goes. I think we need to just kind of basically wait and see on that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. Next game, Texans at Broncos. Broncos are 10-point favorites. That may change after watching what the Seahawks are doing in this game. Maybe it might not. Over under 43.5 in this game. Broncos, I don't know because the game is still going on.
They're down by 1 right now.
I do know this. Russell Wilson is doing his safe thing. Devonte Williams is dominating touches. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton have identical targets and receptions. Jeudy had the one big chunk play. Looks like they are very much so 1A, 1B. We don't know what the A and B are just yet because of that chunk play. It was good.
We know what the 1A is. Jeudy is the more electric player tonight.
That's fair.
But Sutton, as we both said, and I made clearly, even with Jerry Tita is my A1 this year, Sutton was used as a chain mover and, big contested catch plays. And it's working, even though Russ almost threw a pick by just randomly throwing up a contested catch in the end zone to him, which wasn't even actually really on him.
Derek Stingley is going to match up against probably Sutton for the most part. That is problematic. That boy is good. He is good immediately. We knew this. I still love
if
Andrew
only
Booth. He's
everyone could have guessed this.
right. But he looked fantastic in week 1 against the Colts. So in this game, though, I have some intrigue. I mean, we've seen a Geno Smith efficient night. They're only putting up 17 points. The Broncos defense is still very good. I'm intrigued by the Davis Mills play here as a QB2. I'm intrigued by Brandon Cooks. I am not intrigued by OJ Howard. There's a reason we didn't mention him in the waiver segment. He ran 6 routes. He caught 2 touchdowns.
It is a little discouraging for potential breakout of Brevin Jordan, at least start of the season, but it was fluky more than scheme-based.
You playing Burkhead in this game over Dameon Pierce?
See, that's the thing. Like, from what I've seen from this Broncos rush defense, I don't see Burkhead gashing this team, but I could see Pierce gashing this team like Penny has at times, but most have been holding calls. So
yeah, it's been a bummer.
Pierce can kind of have a really good game if they give him the ball. There's been on the other side, if it was playing the Seahawks, I think Burkhead would be good because they're kind of dominating through the air, these running backs for the Broncos with little checkdowns for 10 yards here and there. So it's just a weird game. But if he's going to continue to get more snaps, I think he's playable because there is some lanes against this rush defense.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'll take the Broncos to win and cover in this game.
Well, especially when the Texans punt away the game to tie. I'm definitely going to take the Broncos.
What a cowardly move. Also, maybe a tanking
4th
move.
and 3 from the 46, I believe.
Yeah, cowardly.
Yeah.
And that's what this team's going to be. I think they do want to tank. I think they know that they have one more draft, and if they hit, which they have shown that they can, I think they will be really good. And that AFC South is wide open moving forward. So we'll see. All right, next game, Seahawks versus 49ers. 49ers, 8.5-point favorites. That may also change. 43.5-point over-under. We talked about Elijah Mitchell. What's that?
I was going to say, besides Elijah Mitchell going down, I think we pretty much throw away everything from their game. Rightfully so.
Yes, and we'll say the same thing for the Bears.
Yeah, Debo got 8 carries. I believe 5 of which were after Mitchell went down. He did have a rushing touchdown, though, before Mitchell went down. So I think he still gets used out of the backfield. I don't think it's increased because Mitchell's out this week. Or I think they'll just have a full complement of running backs now, and he won't be used rushing 8 to 10 times again. Mitchell out for at least 2 months. We've already went over that kind of extensively. But, and Seahawks, they've had some decent running plays.
I just want to say start Ayuk, start Debo.
Start Kittle if he plays, by the way.
For sure. Also, Trey Lance did not play bad in that game. Like you said, throw everything away, but also Trey Lance did not play bad in that game. I don't know why people are saying that. It's the people who only look at box scores. Stop doing that. Watch the games. Or don't. I don't care. It
was difficult to watch the game, not from play on field. It literally was difficult to watch the game. There was too much rain on the camera.
I know. Also, the Seahawks just won. Shout out Russell Wilson. He got booed pretty heavily. That's crazy. And shout out, hey, that's one game closer to our little bet that we haven't determined yet. So the Seahawks are 1-0 going against the 0-1 49ers. That's pretty crazy. So Rashad Penny, I think you're playing against the 49ers. I think Khalil Herbert, David Montgomery got bottled up a little bit, but again, throw away a lot.
He could not stay up. And Herbert really didn't get touches. He just a little bit of the Waddle where he had very limited touches, but got some yards on it and a touchdown. So
It's going to be an interesting split when we get to that game. But I think Penny, you start him, and I think you're comfortable with it. I think and Kinlaw went down in this game. I don't know if he's still hurt. I don't know what came of that.
Yeah,
so
Jesus.
it's rough.
It's just one of those games where, like, did we have to play it?
Right, exactly. They shouldn't have played that game. They should not have been on that field. That was ridiculous.
Was there a practice field they could have went to?
Right.
Like, fucking hell.
All right. Next game, Cincinnati Bengals going to face the Cowboys. Cowboys are 2.5-point favorites. That will change.
Yeah, that's changing.
The Bengals will be favored in this game. Over-under is 51.5. That will also change. Maybe. I think it'll come down a couple points, maybe 3 points. Injuries, Dak is out 6 to 8 weeks. T. Higgins is in concussion protocol. Maybe allowed to play this week. If I'm the Bengals, I'm probably just not playing him. I'm probably just rolling out Tyler Boyd and Mike Thomas. Damn. I don't know why I couldn't think of his last name. Because I think you can beat the Cowboys now without Dak pretty handedly. You sit T for a week. Jamar Chase, elite. Him and Devonte Adams and Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp are like in a tier of their own, I think. I think that's the tier. Justin Jefferson is ahead. He's the best receiver in the NFL. I know you want Devonte is probably it's there.
It's still Devonte, but
it's close.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that, but I'm still going to lead Devonte.
That's fair. Joe Burrow had a terrible game. He's going to go sicko mode for the rest of the year. He sat at his locker. He did not get changed. He did not shower. He did not do anything. He was pissed off. And there were a lot of things that went wrong for the Bengals. I expect them to absolutely destroy the Cowboys in this game, personally. Yeah. Are you starting CD? Are you starting Schultz?
Schultz, yes.
Yeah.
CD, there's a question mark there. For some reason, the game plan for the Cowboys was so strange. Zeke was dominant on the ground early on. They just went away from it entirely.
For no reason. They weren't out of the game
10
yet.
carries for, I think, 55 yards for Zeke on the ground.
Yeah.
Ridiculous to not keep giving the ball. And then they decided to feature Noah Brown and everyone really not CD. CD did lead the team in targets, but a good amount of those were after Dak was hurt too, where they were just like throw to CD every time. But I think Schultz is going to be consistent 8 or 6 to 10 targets every week, touchdown upside possibly. Like I think you just keep giving him the ball. CD, if he's going to get 11 targets every week, I don't really care who the quarterback is. He's going to at least be a flex option in that regard. There is a chance they upgrade the quarterback after this week. I don't know what we'll see with the whole Jimmy G situation. But it's also not just Jimmy G. I mean, there's other backups that could be high value here, so we'll see how it all plays out. I mean,
are you rolling with this sit? Did you say that?
Yeah, I'm rolling with this sit. I'm sitting Zeke. He's my sit of the week. Yeah, he ran for 5.5 carries, 5.5 yards a carry. They also, again, just ran him 10 times. Now that they have to run him against the Bengals, who didn't let the Steelers run on him, newsflash, Mitch Trubisky is better than Cooper Rush. That's not a leap here.
By a lot. By a lot.
They are going to stuff the box. Zeke's not going to be able to run, unfortunately. Zeke also only outsnapped Pollard by 2 snaps. Again, game plan made no sense. Unfortunately, that game plan now for the next 6 to 8 weeks, unless they get a new quarterback, is going to be shit because Zeke is going to get the box stuffed on him every game.
Yeah. Cowboys may end up with Will Anderson if I'm being completely honest. I don't think the defense is still pretty good.
Fuck.
Wouldn't that be nuts?
Because they get out of money for Lawrence. Oh my! Holy hell!
It would be pretty fantastic. Okay.
No, we cannot have this happen.
I would like to see it. I would be happy for Kevin. I would be happy.
Oh my god, Micah Parsons and Will Anderson together.
It'd be nuts. It'd be the most fun defense we have ever witnessed in our entire lives. And we've seen a lot of good defense.
And it would help Trey Diggs be the dog shit actual cover corner that he is. He's a ball hawk, no question. One of the best hands in the secondary that we've seen in a long time. But
He got cooked by Mike Evans on that fade.
He gets cooked all the time, Christian. That's the problem.
I know it's
But
not
that's
good.
because he has to sit on an island and cover for 6 seconds. If he has to cover for 3 seconds, anyone could be a decent corner.
That's true. All right. 3 more games. Sunday Night Football, Bears versus Packers. Kind of an intriguing game. Packers are 9.5-point favorites. Over-under is 45. 2 different outcomes. The Packers looked really bad. Their offense looked really bad. The Bears also look bad, but we're throwing everything out. I think they're going to look good when given the opportunity. Justin Fields threw 2 touchdowns. You play him in this game, even though the Packers do have really good corners. I think Justin Fields I still think he's going to be top 12. He did not finish that way this week. I don't care. That game is a throwaway. Aaron Rodgers is going to have to figure something out. The wide receivers for Green Bay are, with Allen Lazard coming back, I think will be better. But
if he's back,
exactly. He was doubtful all week and then ruled out very quickly. A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon was the RB1. I think that shift may have happened. Will be interesting to see what that looks like moving forward. I think those 2 are the wide receiver 1 and 2. Robert Tonyan looked okay when given opportunity. What are you doing with this game? Are you worried about Mooney as well? I guess throw that in there.
Not as much as last week.
Yeah.
Which is saying, Jair Alexander is much better than anyone on the 49ers secondary. But you just couldn't play Mooney last week, really, because his best asset is breakaway and taking the top off the defense. You're not going to do either of those things in an absolute mud puddle rain out game. So he was basically the easiest sit possible last week once that weather was shown on Sunday and that field was shown on Sunday. So I expect a better game from him. I think he has a chance to make a big play and be used on quick game as well, which couldn't really be used last week as well. So I think he should have a better week. I think Kmet should have a better week. I think Montgomery should have a better week. Dalvin Cook should have had a better game.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some – he kind of got a lot of reach tackled on, and it was good defensive play by Kenny Clark, obviously. But I think there was multiple chances for Dalvin Cook to kind of break away for a big chunk play, and he just didn't get fully out there, whatever the reason was. I think Montgomery can capitalize on that this week. We'll see how it goes. But he was by far the top dog. I think in a non-mud puddle game, he gets more than 26 yards in the ground. So we'll see kind of a better split of this backfield this week for Montgomery owners.
Yeah, I am sitting him though. That he is my sit this week. So Montgomery had 17 carries last week. I think that's really, really encouraging. He also had 4 targets. I think that's where Montgomery could make me look like an idiot here. I think he will be used in the passing game. He is their passing down back. Khalil Herbert, 9 carries, 45 yards, and he did get the touchdown last week. I think we may see a little heavier dose of Herbert because they're going to be using Montgomery on third down situations, which will be more frequent, I think, in this game than they were in the last game. So, but I just, he's a wait and see for me right now. I don't know what this offense really will look like because we still don't know. We have not seen all of them together. So, but I think it's going to be a good game. I think Justin Fields is going to be Aaron Rodgers in this game, by the way. I
think this will be a better game than we saw from the Bears last year. We saw that they're definitely a team, at least with Justin Fields having the ball, that's going to be fighting every game. So, which I don't think we saw a lot of time last year against the Packers. So, I do think we have a better game, but we'll see though. They had a lot of drops. The line was terrible and injured. Just to be fair, Rodgers held on to the ball too long.
He didn't look
so
he did not look good. He looked like he didn't trust his wide receivers, which fair.
He didn't, but he also he held it so long multiple times that it was almost like we'll trade for a receiver. See, this was gonna happen. It was very weird.
And he was pissed, visibly
There's
pissed.
multiple times where he could have gotten the ball out, but he just held on to it, and he paid for it dearly.
Yeah.
He got rocked the one time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He should have probably left the game for an extended period of time. He got
go back in the locker room, take more Percocets.
Do more DMT.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. Yeah, this game should be fun to watch at least on Sunday night.
Yeah, I'll still give it to the Packers, but I'm rooting for the Bears, which is hilarious here.
Bear down, baby. Bear down.
This is it. Yeah. I feel weird wearing Browns merch in Milwaukee.
That's
you
fair.
get some weird looks because everyone assumes it's Bears stuff. So this will be a fun Sunday night game.
It will. All right, 2 Monday Night Football games, Titans versus Bills. Bills are only 7-point favorites in this game, over under 51. The Bills are going to kill the Titans. I'm sorry. Bet the Bills. I think.
The only way – see, I think Kyle Phillips could have a good game again because he can get open underneath, and that's what they're going to need to do because I think we saw the blueprint from the Bills every week. You're not getting more than 10 yards a catch.
Yep.
No, we're not even discussing it. And if you do, the two of the best safeties in the league are picking it off. So with that being said, I think the only chance the Titans have is Henry still gets 20-plus touches again because, again, he still got his workload, but he actually gets the yards that he needs and gets a breakaway because I do think that is how this team always is going to win, and I think he can do that against the Bills personally.
Yeah. Especially if they're playing too high, you've got a lot of space to work.
The Giants played heavy in the box. I don't foresee the Bills. I think maybe they bring it tighter than last week, but I still don't foresee them completely abandoning what is going to be their bread and butter just to stop Derrick Henry. When you do have a reputable receiver, Robert Woods, you have a young guy that can get open deep, and you have another young guy that can get open underneath. It's tough to just say, hey, well, we're going to put 8 in the box and then let Robert Woods possibly get open and maybe Treylon Burks outspeed you deep, which could happen.
Yeah. I wouldn't start Tannehill in this game, personally.
No.
I know they're going to need to throw, but so did the Rams, and that didn't go very well for them. I would start Henry. On the Bills side, I'm starting Gabe Davis. I'm starting Stephon Diggs. I'm starting Devin Singletary. I'm not starting any other running back. And I'm starting Dawson Knox. I think Knox will have a bounce-back game in this game. So
I think I'm starting Knox over McKenzie.
Yes.
It's very close.
Yeah, I agree. That's all I really have to say in this game. I think the Bills win this handedly. I think the Bills are one of the best teams of football right now, if not the best. Yeah. Chiefs are still there. Okay. Final game, Minnesota Vikings heading to Philadelphia to play the Eagles. Eagles are 2.5-point favorites in this game. This is one of my favorite games of the week. 47.5 over under. No main injuries. Once again, Miles Sanders got a touchdown for the first time in 2 seasons. He had 13 carries, led the backfield, is the RB1 of this team. However, they will still factor in a little bit of Gainwell, a little bit of Boston Scott. Jalen Hurts, 17 carries. He is what he is at this point. Still kind of erratic as a pass or as a thrower. It doesn't matter as much when you have AJ Brown, who is going to finish as a top 10 wide receiver every week that he plays. Heavy on that every week that he plays because he has been known to get injured in previous years. So hopefully he does not. But
I expect a similar week this week. The Vikings secondary I wasn't overly impressed with.
No, it was just that the Packers wide receivers sucked, I think.
And a good pass rush. So we'll see on that. But, so AJ Brown, easy start. Hurts, easy start.
Sanders also, I think.
Sanders flex start. Yeah. I have more confidence than I did last week. We'll see.
Yeah. Justin Jefferson, easy start. Dalvin Cook. Really, the interesting part of the Vikings offense, though, is it very much so operated like the Rams offense last year, where they only throw to one guy, which is fine.
But they spread it Thielen had a couple big catches. Osborne had a couple catches. He did get rocked on the one. I will say that. There was some early involvement from the random tight ends while they limited
Johnny
Irv
Mutt.
Smith's involvement as he's getting back from his injury. I did put in here, I think Smith, when healthy, is most likely a top 10 tight end every week with the involvement that is shown that they want to have from that position. They just don't have the talent with him not having full reps yet. So when he is full go, I think he's startable every week.
Yeah, that's fair. Both Thielen and Osborne 4 targets each 3 catches. Thielen with a few more yards than KJ Osborne. Justin Jefferson, though, 9 receptions on 11 targets, 184 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Blown coverages for what it's worth. I think I don't think we're going to see that, though. I think it's going to be a hell of a matchup between the Eagles secondary. Now, I say that Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Chark had good games against this Eagles secondary down the stretch. So, very, very good game.
It's a good secondary, though. Well,
it is.
They just faced Vikings just faced one of the better secondaries. I think they get another one of the better secondaries. So
they're fine. Yeah, I'm not concerned about really anyone. Okay, who are you picking in this game? I find that
I will pick the Vikings. Basically, I'll give Kirk the edge, and because the Eagles let the Lions score 35 points to get back in the game, where the Vikings kept their foot on the pedal and kind of they grinded out the clock in the second half. It kind of felt like they couldn't get the ball moving as much necessarily. There were some good adjustments from the Packers defense, I'd say, but they still looked dominant. They still were moving the ball. They just couldn't finish drives. They were punting it, but they were still moving. And if the Eagles defense plays like they did in the second half against the Lions this week, the Vikings will score 50 points. That's the problem.
Yeah, for sure. I will also pick the Vikings. They're winning the NFC North. So I'm confident in that take right
now. We're going to have to see a vast improvement from the Packers offense to, I think, go against that claim right now.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that is all the games for week 2. So we've got you covered about an hour and 40 minutes with waivers for week 2 and all of the games.
Yeah. I was going to say quickly, waivers will be quicker most weeks. It's just with week 1, we're seeing, more questions be raised without enough answers. So there's more people to talk about, more just up in the air situations. There'll be more clarity as the weeks move on. So it'll be a bit quicker, probably quick enough that we can just have it in the game discussions more than its own segment, because we'll be more focused on 4 to 6 people every week instead of, 14 to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. We will be back next Monday. I assume, I don't know if I want to miss the second half of every Monday Night Football game. Why do you say maybe? Are we not?
It's 2 football games. It's going to be tough. It's not really a time to.
This is true.
We'll see. We'll discuss it. We may record early, or we'll be live at the normal time. I don't know.
We'll have a show for you next week.
That's
for sure. We will have a show for you. But until then, let us know if you have questions. I got a lot of questions. I gave some rough advice. I'm sorry for a couple of people that I steered in the wrong direction this week. I had a rough week for fantasy as well. It was a weird week. I think I won 7 of my 11 sleeper leagues or something like that. So
I think I went 500. I had a good amount of injuries and some rough plays from some people, but and I think I won in all 22 in week 1. We'll see with how this game went, but I think I won, and I won in the Scott Fish Bowl almost assuredly. So pretty good week.
Yeah. Nice. All right, man. Well, we will be back next week at some point. Until then, like I said, ask any questions you want to ask. We will be here to help you. At C. Williams NFL on Twitter for me, and at R. Hall NFL on Twitter for Randy. Until then, for Randy Hall, I'm Christian Williams. We'll talk to you guys next week. Later.